Introduction to James. Author, date, and recipients. This letter was written by James, the brother of Jesus, Matthew chapter 13:55, and Galatians 1, verse 19, and leader of the Jerusalem church, Acts chapter 15. It was probably written about AD 40 to 45 to Jewish Christians living outside Palestine who were suffering persecution and living in poverty. The Gospel in James. James is a beloved epistle, eminently practical and full of vivid exhortations to godly living. The author presents profound counsel on numerous essentials: trials, poverty, riches, justice, speech, worldliness, and prayer. His clarity and prophetic urgency call readers to action, but his assessment of our failures is almost too penetrating, as it exposes our inability to perform what he commands, driving us to the ever-present refuge of the gospel. Yet at the same time, James stirs us to action, to the obedience that is a hallmark not of bare external conformity, but of living faith. Be doers of the word, and not hearers only. James 1, verse 22. Since James demands what readers cannot render, we struggle to resolve the tension between those demands and our inability to attain them. We might expect James to discuss justification here, but he never mentions that, or the cross, resurrection, or atonement. Indeed, the absence of these elements has prompted some to doubt the canonicity of James. Further, while he uses Jesus' name twice, James 1:1 and James 2:1, both are passing references, not expositions of his life and saving work. With 59 commands and 108 verses, James declares King Jesus' royal law, chapter 2, verse 8. He insists that obedience is a prime mark of true religion. Whoever keeps the whole law but fails in one point has become accountable for all of it. Chapter 2, verse 10, chapter 3, verse 1, and chapter 4, verse 17. The hasty reader could therefore miss the gospel in James. If James merely commands, his clarity is a burden, and his commands ultimately condemn. We will begin to understand the gospel intentions of the book by noting that James chapter 1 verses 26 through 27 structures the book when he declares that anyone who thinks he is religious will show it in 3 ways. He will bridle his tongue, watch over orphans and widows in their affliction, and keep himself unstained by the world. Remarkably, James next demonstrates that everyone fails to meet these standards. We must control the tongue, yet no one can tame the tongue. James 3, verse 8. We must care for the needy, orphans and widows, yet we're willing to wish them well and do nothing. James 2, verses 15 through 17. We must avoid the pollution of the world, yet our envy and quarrels prove our worldliness. James 4, verses 1 through 4. If no one has true religion, then all are liable to judgment. Still, James says, mercy triumphs over judgment. Chapter 2, verse 13, and chapter 5, verse 11. The climax of the epistle James 4:6 explains how mercy triumphs. No one controls the tongue, cares for the needy, or stays unstained, but God gives more grace. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Here, it means all Scripture, which attests to God's grace for the humble. James reinforces the lesson in 4:10, commanding, humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will exalt you. That is the gospel according to James. No one is obedient. No one consistently demonstrates true religion. Therefore, the Father who gives good gifts, chapter 1, verse 5 and 17, gives the supreme gift of saving grace to the humble. Further, the wisdom to understand such grace is from above. Chapter 1, verses 17 and 18. As God grants needed understanding generously and without reproach to whomever asks. Chapter 1, verse 5. We therefore understand that, though none can meet God's requirements, he grants the wisdom needed to navigate this world and the next to all who simply have faith to ask his aid. James 1:6. This is undeniable grace. The outline for the book of James. Number 1 is greeting. Number 2 is the testing of faith. Number 3 is the hearing and doing of the word. Number 4 is the sin of favoritism. Number 5, faith without works is dead. Number 6, the sin of dissension in the community. Number 7, the sins of the wealthy. Number 8, the prayer of faith. And number 9, the concluding admonition.